Hey everybody, it's Golmadex, and welcome back to another premiere draft of Dominaria United. Without further ado, let's get into the pack 1, pick 1. Some sweet options here, pretty much all in the uncommons. Terra Sunder is great removal, but only when it's kicked, so you do need to be a green-black deck for this card, but it's quite excellent there. Territorial Marrow is fantastic in domain decks just as a gigantic beat stick. And then Resolute Reinforcements is great in any white deck, giving you 2 creatures off of the one body at instant speed. I'm going to go for the Resolute Reinforcements here. I think it's a little less restrictive than the other powerful cards. This has to be a specific 2-card deck. This has to be one specific archetype of domain, whereas Reinforcements is anything with white in it. So we'll grab that and see what we get past for pick number 2. Now we have the excellent blue card draw of Impulse. Another great instant speed thing to do with your mana. Battlewing Mystic's very good when you can kick it in the late game. So even if we ended up in like blue-white or something, having a few Sacred Peaks to kick it would be good. Lightning Strike, beautiful cheap removal. Take up the shield, an excellent cheap combat trick. Saves your creature and makes it win any fight, except against like exile spells or -X spells. So yeah, Take Up the Shield, Impulse, Lightning Strike, and Battlewing Mystic are all fantastic picks here. Take Up the Shield would be the simple kind of coward's pick here, just stick to pure white for now. It's honestly pretty on par with these other cards, so it might even just be the best pick. Seeing as it is pretty comparable in power level with everything. Yeah, just grab the Take Up the Shield here. Actually does seem pretty reasonable. And I am a coward. Pick number 3, Citizen's Arrest is great white removal. Just cut the color pretty hard for now and have our core color all ready for us. It's also Iconoclast. A 2-mana 3/2 trample is just a good deal. You don't really need to kick this at all, but if you can, then it's even better. So Iconoclast is quite great. That would be what we take if we don't take the Arrest. Third best cards, probably like Shore Up to counter removal. Vine Shaper Prodigy here for card draw, but an easy Citizen's Arrest for us. Okay, we are out of solid white cards to pick. There's also nothing particularly good for an aggressive deck. The only thing we really see is an excellent finisher for domains, so we're just going to grab that Tachiova. It's really the only reasonably powerful card in the pack. And Tachiova is very powerful, though, once you have 7 or more lands, but there are definitely people drafting domain, as we can see here. No lands in this pack or in last pack. And in this format, there's at least one non-basic land in every single pack. So people are scooping up the dual lands to up their domain count. It is an archetype that is quite frequently contested because everybody loves playing some 5-color nonsense. So, best monocolored card in the pack is probably Cult Conscript. So I will take that over Mesa Cavalier. And I think this card is very good for like a black-white sacrifice deck, which is a pretty great archetype. And our Resolute Reinforcements works really well there as well. Pick 6, Braid's Frightful Return works great with Cult Conscript and creature tokens and stuff. That way we make our opponent discard a card, we pick up a creature from our grave, and then make them sack something. Yeah, pretty nice little 3-for-1 in the right deck. I do think black-white is the right deck for that card. Particularly great with Resolute Reinforcements, because we can sack the reinforcements itself to make our opponent discard a card, and then put the reinforcements back in our hand to recast it. Seems pretty great. Pick number 7. Juniper Order Rootweaver is very filler, so I'd rather take a Radiant Grove to be able to splash in a little bit of green, or potentially a Stronghold Arena. This card's just really awkward though, isn't it? So you just gain life for each time I was kicked, and what it does is every time you deal combat damage to a player, reveal the top card, put in your hand, and lose life equal to the mana value. Yeah, it's really narrow card draw that also shoots you every time you do it. Like, it's good when you're already winning. And it's 1 or more, so even if you hit them with like 3 tokens, you draw 1 card total. I honestly think I would rather just speculate on Radiant Grove. Just doesn't seem great. And now we've got 2 different lands that fix for green, taking this Haunted Mire. Battlefly Storm would be reasonable, and randomly kicking a repossession would be decent, though. So those are viable options. But I'll just make sure I've got green fixing if we find anything for that. Wow, we can really have the green fixing. Maybe we're randomly just gonna become the domain deck? I mean, all the late duels were green, black, and white. It's interesting. That's a pick 10 impulse? This card is very deceptively good in blue decks. Some of the best blue cards in the format are 2-mana counterspells, so being able to play that when you're not casting Essence Scatter is wonderful. I don't want to be all over the place here, though. I'm going to take the Charismatic Vanguard because it'd be great in our black-white deck. I'm going to be between the black-white token deck or the green-based domain deck since we're getting all these duels. I want to also be potentially trying to do blue nonsense. 12. Grab an Abomination. Some filler blue to wrap things up. Okay, pack 2, pick 1. I'm angry and sad because we opened up an absolute bomb rare out of blue. Vidalian Mindsinger is both going to be like a 5-mana 4/4 and steal one of our opponent's creatures. Pretty astronomical 2 for 1. So we either lock in on blue-green domain, taking this Mindsinger and ditching most of what we've drafted, or fully accept defeat and commit to Orzhov Sacrifice with this War Horse. That way we get to play a new archetype. That is one of my favorites. It's a really fun one, really powerful one. I'm just going to force the Rakdos. Or the Rakdos, the Orzhov Sac deck here. We're going to grab that War Horse. Get a nice wide board. Here's a Citizen's Arrest. Yeah, I think we take another one of this over the Eerie Soul Tender, which would be solid in the deck. Pick 3. Well, we know what we're splashing. Bortuk Bone Rattle actually splashable off of 3 green duels, and a very good turn 6 play, even if your domain is only 3. You reanimate a 3-drop or less when it hits the board. Excellent card. Take Up the Shield's great too, but this is so splashable for us. Since we got all these duels pretty late. Might even be able to get 1 or 2 more for the Bortuk. Pick 4, Love Me, a Banalish Sleeper. Probably the best common for this archetype. Plays really well in certain matchups against like domain decks where they just have one big scary creature, and like blue-red decks that have a lower creature count. Having each player sack a creature and you just sack like a 1/1 token is just phenomenal. Obviously need to find some Captain's Call style cards later, but I'm taking that Banalish Sleeper very highly. Pick 5, here's a Captain's Call. It's also a tribute to Urborg, though, and we're really just on 2 arrests for hard removal. The stall for time, the sabotage don't really impact the board at all. In terms of actually taking something off it. Yeah, we can take this tribute pretty highly, I think. Over the Call or the Phalanx. Oh, here we go, another Banalish Sleeper. Take that over Soul Tender. Yeah. Herbalist. I do have a blue kicker on Tribute to Urborg, as well as Domain on Bone Rattle. Beachfront might not be the worst, just taking that over a filler 2-drop or a second stall for time. I don't really like Runic Shot much. Yeah, I'll actually take a Beachfront. Second Beachfront? Splatter Goblin looks fine here, trades up. I guess it's also a good card to like sack to sleepers. We're on double sleeper. Let's actually make sure we've got good 2s and treat sleeper as a 3. Now a Vivisector. Although Shadow Prophecy, these random green sources and this blue source now, we keep getting past enough duels, this could be big card draw. The card selection, looking at the top 5 maximum, is pretty insane. Grabbing the best cards in your top 5. We do need a lot of 2-drops in this deck, though, so I'm just going to grab the Vivisector. I will easily grab the Soul Tender there. Acolyte is pretty bad. 5-mana, 3/4 flyer, 7-mana, 5/6 flyer. So filler either way, but so is the Apparition. Light's probably slightly better than that. Griffin Protector's fine if we get the token production to go with it. I don't know where it went on the mana curve. Way over here for some reason? Yeah, get over here. Join the 4 drops. Warhorse is actually a 5 drop because we only want to kick that. Okay, pack 3, pick 1. We got a premium 2-drop creature. A 2 mana, 2/2 menace, shuts off any life gain and buffs itself up when you need it. That is wonderful. That is lovely. We'll take that and hope to wheel a Splatter Goblin. Pack 3, pick 2. We don't actually have a ton of token production to make Aaron that good, but it is theoretically very good in this archetype. Not really for this deck. The mana cost is also incredibly restrictive. Hard to hit. It might be a better, like, Writhing Necromass deck here. Just trading a bunch of creatures off early, getting a little bit of self-mill, having this be a top-end finisher for kind of cheap. But I also like the Love Song of Night and Day quite a bit. 2/2 flyer and a +1/+1 counter, just a good stat line. I'll just take the Love Song. Pack 3, pick 3. Pretty empty pack. Atrocity just as a 2/3 menace is not very good. You really need to kick it to be happy with it, and we're not going to be doing that. But I'm also not playing an Apparition or a second Sabotage or a Drawbridge. So I guess I'll take that and see if we get random red sources. Pick 4, nice little Phalanx for the top of the curve. Nice big Phalanx for the top of the curve, if you want to call it that way. Black-white duo would also be reasonable. I want to make sure I've got my critical mass of non-land playables. Pick 5. Pretty filler. Repossession looks fine here with triple green source. It's probably the best. Pick 6, another Phalanx. I think I'm dropping the stall, dropping the sabotage. We have 4 duels here, so this is a 16 land build. Sure, another Banalish Sleeper. 15 land build. Probably do cut 2 cards and go for the full 17 lands here. So let's drop the Abomination, the Atrocity, and the Acolyte. This is 23 non-land cards. Yeah, very solid, very reasonable looking Orzhov deck. And these are also 2 drops. We'll just play these on curve when I don't, when our opponent doesn't have something to kill. Yeah, I don't think I'm playing anything here. Could play another Abomination, could play a Cavalier, could play a Splatter Goblin. But I'm just shoving something in the side. I will play a Necromass now that we have 2 Soul Tenders. What is Necromass better than? Might be better than a second Phalanx. Kind of want to keep 7 2-drops here. I like getting really loaded up with those cheap plays. I guess this is not a super good Griffin Protector deck. We didn't actually end up with much token production. White seemed kind of contested. On that front, we didn't see any of the Cavaliers that spit out a 1/1 soldier when you play them. Saw some Captain's Calls, but those were pretty early. We took some pretty good cards over them. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the best Griffin Protector deck, so we can drop that to still be at 17 lands with all these big plays. That looks pretty good. Let's make sure the mana base is good. 12 black cards, 11 white, so pretty much an even split. We're sitting at 8 black and 8 white. 9 white. So slightly more white than black right now. We want slightly more black than white. No, none of our black cards need 2 black mana, but both of our Citizens' Arrests need double white, so I think the auto-suggester did it right. We will call it a deck here. hop right into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the play for game 1. Let's just get aggressive, get that 1 mana 2/1 going, the 3 mana 3/1. Beat down, take up the shield. Do whatever we gotta do to get damage in here. Vanquisher's Axe, turn 1. That's not a good sign. I was hoping we'd be against something pretty slow so we could get a lot of early damage with these first couple plays. But if they're playing an equipment like a Vanquisher's Axe, they probably have a pretty low and pretty aggressive curve, instead of being some domain nonsense. Is it the black-white mirror match here? That'd be sad. Pilfer. Alright, well there goes Phalanx, probably. They could hit Soul Tender if they are just really worried about the early damage. Phalanx it is. Citizen's Arrest is the draw, but it is obviously not the play right now. Nobody to arrest on board. Ooh, Soul Tender to bring back a Bortuk? To bring back something else when I cast the Bortuk? That'll be big in the late game. There's their Vivisector, we can take up the shield, or I can Sleeper. How does the Conscript come back? If a non-skeleton died, it comes back. That's a spirit, not a skeleton. I guess this is fine. A little less damage this way, but we're trading something that can reanimate somewhat easily this way. Instead of trading our Take Up the Shield off this early. That way we can still attack into 4 toughness cards. Ratadrabic, that does a bunch of stupid stuff, probably. Ward 2, so I can't do anything about it anyway, we just attack in. Whenever another legendary dies, they get a copy of it that's a 2/2, so I guess it doesn't do anything until they play another legend. And they're already down to 7. Might just be able to outrace this Ratadrabic. If they play another legend, though, and then like Bone Splinters or something, that could be it for us. That could be a real stable board. They'd kill our 3/2 and make 2 2/2s of their own. But it doesn't look like they have the legend to go with Ratadrabic. Yeah, just equip an axe and... Dang, I was gonna say a top deck land would be lethal, but we didn't top deck the land, so we just put them to 1. Yeah, if I Citizen's Arrest, I put them to 1. Otherwise, I can take up the shield and Knight so that I don't... I guess I still lose a creature either way, so we'll just do the Citizen's Arrest. Force them to trade Ratadrabic off. And put them to 1 life. Alright. That's 2 blockers off 1 spell. Ah, there's that land that would have found us the lethal here. Well, I can take up the shield and bring the Cult Conscript back, or take up the shield and play a menace threat, either of which is pretty good. Which is the better ability on board? I guess because Soul Tender has an ability in the grave, we just save the Sleeper here. Or, you know what? I could just let this happen. Play the Knight and the Conscript. And still have the Take Up the Shield. I end up with 2 creatures on board however way I play that. So this way one of the creatures is a Menacer, and I get my Conscript value. Okay, Liliana is not good enough by herself.
Happy to help. You
Let's see
won't
what their
get
last card in hand is then. 2 blockers, does not look like it. There's the concession from our opponent. We win the mirror match against a Liliana of the Veil in the end, too. We just had the better, more aggressive curve, so pretty simple game there. 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are for game 2. We cannot keep a triple swamp hand with the double white Citizen's Arrest. There's a lot of swamps for our 9-8 split, but it is what it is. At least this time we have A planes, and we can keep the hand. Lowering a dinosaur in on a rope, that's pretty funny. Let's just start beating down, get in there, 2 mana, 3-1. Sunbathing Rootwalla, that is a solid trade if we do so, because that can threaten to be basically a 7/7 later in the game in these domain decks, and they're already on domain 3. Here's the Soul Tender. My Necromass, no! Soul Tender of their own. Milling a Miria's Outrider, that'll be a big one later. Phalanx, we have to pre-combat that to ensure it resolves. Because otherwise we lose a creature here and then we don't have the mana for Phalanx. Alright, they're down to 14. We got a Soul Tender out of the way. Namada. That's the kind of card you need removal in your hand or you're dead, and we don't have removal in our hand, so I guess we lose. Every time any of our creatures die, they get a 1/1 Sapperling, and they can sack their Sapperlings for a multitude of great effects. Necromass as well. Yeah, they're just astronomically stable here. Vortex going to put something right back on the board. I obviously can't kick the Banalish Sleeper if I'm putting it straight back to the board, and I can't choose to put it in my hand instead of the board. It forces it to go to the board. I guess I just pick up my own Death Toucher at that point, since it's not going to break through this board anyway. But we're just getting modded because we don't have the removal. We milled it. Sojourner. Oh yeah, they are tremendously stable. Single 5/5. I'm looking through our deck list here, seeing what we've got. If I hit a sequence of Banalish Sleepers, it's a little bit of something. Yeah, I mean, our odds of winning are astronomically low, but they're not 0 yet. So I'll stick it out for another turn or two. Basically have to draw just perfectly from here. Opponent's deck just has the beef. Yeah, bite down, get the exile, get the Sapperling. Find Vivisector. Alright, they're close enough to 0 now. Let's just move on to the next game. Here we are for game 3. Another terrible mana forced mulligan. You love to see it. All right, starting 2 games in a row on a 6-card hand. Hopefully not against quite as powerful of a deck this time around. Our opponent just had a beautiful late game there that kind of crushed us. I definitely can't ditch a land. 2 creatures in hand means this is 4 if they kill nothing. I somehow feel like Necromass is going to be more likely to be able to get cast. Alright, slam dunk trade into a Root Walla. Another domain deck from our opponent. Alright, solid trade is solid. There you go. Necromance is a 4-mana 5/5. Our opponent already has Domain 4 here on turn 3. There's the Iconoclast. Really don't care about that. I mean, the trade is profitable enough, but I think we're just getting as much damage as possible in here before they can resolve really sturdy blockers. Sea Scavenger just sets up their next draw. Kind of scries when it hits the board. Full return, huh? Chapter 2 on that? Could chapter 2 and put Bortuk in my hand. If I top deck a land, that'd be very good, but if I don't, that'll be an issue. I feel like that's our best Frightful Return play, regardless. Might even be worth sacking the Vivisector to get them to discard a card here. But I think I'm just going for the Bortuk. Well, you know what? Yeah, this actually seems really good, because then I also get the Scry. And I get to draw my card for turn before I choose what I do with Chapter 2. That's brutal. I think I have to scry that to the bottom. Because we're really wanting to draw the untapped land. Just pick up and recast the Bortuk immediately. Man, alright. Still picking that up. Sunbathing Root Walla. 6 left to 12 right now. Have I drawn every tap land in the deck now? My lord. Yeah, we've seen every single tap land in the deck. We drew all of them except the one that we scried to the bottom. That's wild. Oh, here's an untapped land. Didn't really need the untapped at this point. It was just funny because I really needed it last turn, and there were 3 in a row. Grove, Beachfront, and Mire. Man. 6 life. This thing's 6/6 already. Yeah, we can't attack. I need my 4/4 to trade into their 4/4, my 2/2 to trade into the 3/2, and my Death Toucher to trade into the Rootwalla. Gross. This is double Gaia's Might. Gaia's Might shore up for exactsies with the trample. You got me. 1 and 2, heading into game 4. Alright, here we are on the play for game 4 with a nice aggressive curve. Conscript into the Knight, into the Sleeper, sacking the Conscript to kill one of their cards. We're just gonna draw every tap land every game. This is insane. These tap lands have been very detrimental these last couple games. Like, if we could have played the Bone Rattle the turn we put it back to hand last game, we would have still been alive at that point. Had another draw step or two. Alright, I did find the untapped land for the Sleeper, but seeing as they just played a Vine Wall, I don't think it's worth sacking the Conscript to kill it. When all it's going to do is just trump the Conscript later anyway. And now kicking the Sleeper is just going to kill the 0/2 for now, so I just don't even want to save that for later. If I save it for later, it just kills the 0/2 later. Let's just get the power on board. Well, let's see the trick here. If it's some trick that kills a non-conscript creature, we reanimate the conscript. Sure. Oh, I guess it would have to be something that kills a non-conscript creature and the conscript to reanimate it, because obviously the conscript isn't in grave if it didn't die. Are you gonna Essence Scatter a Splatter Goblin? Okay. You got me. No Essence Scatter for Bone Rattle now, which is nice. Vine Shaper Prodigy kicked. Excellent value play. Phalanx. That is fine to play between the Bone Rattle. Or before the Bone Rattle. Send it with both. Somebody hits for 2 and the other one dies. They're probably killing the Knight. Although I guess, yeah, I can threaten to just buff that if they try to kill the Knight. Amplifier Phalanx back to hand, sure. They already don't have good blocks for the Knight. I just send it back in and replay the Phalanx. Alright. Well, thanks to their pain land, they have to keep taking 1 damage every time they do that. Ooh. Hit Bone Rattle mana. Which I guess is better than playing Phalanx. Get 2 creatures onto this board. Beg their horse to please shut up. Niall. Interesting spot for Sleeper here. I think I'm just on Phalanx and take up the shield though, most likely. If I Sleeper, force a sack, they sack there, chump there, take 4, 5 if I buff the knight. I'd have to buff with take up the shield because I would have tapped out a black for Sleeper. Yeah, I think it's just to send in everybody. Okay, this interestingly actually plays around take up the shield pretty well, where even if I take up the Splatter Goblin, it then doesn't die, which means it doesn't -1/-1 Niall, so neither dies if I cast take up the shield. I think I just Banash Sleeper post-combat to kill Niall. Oh, that means I don't have Phalanx mana. Oof. Guess I could just Conscript and Phalanx here. Still have Sleeper for next turn. Yeah, I guess maybe just pre-combat Sleeper would have been pretty good. Oh, they had to scatter for Sleeper anyway. Okay. Alright, let's see if the Sleeper resolves this time around. Alright, we are now 2-2, and into game 5. Alright, here we are for game number 5. We're against the one and the only, Squee himself. We are on the draw here. Hands keepable though, we get the tap land out of the way, then play the swamp to go Vivisector into Soul Tender. And there's our 4-drop, our Givian Phalanx. Looks like some domain soupy nonsense. What else is there to play against in the format? Go with the Vivisector. Keldon Flame Sage. That is terrifying. It's going to draw instants and sorceries and cast them for free. So if they have a lot of lightning strikes and stuff, it's pretty deadly. I think we need to just arrest that. Otherwise it can declare an attack, hit a lightning strike, kill the Soul Tender before I can even declare blocks, poke for 2. Just keep going crazy. Alright, 3-2. Yeah, pretty bad against our 2-2. Like that. Splatter Goblin hold up, take up the shield, or I just play a 3-drop here. Play the Soul Tender here. Rather have like the maximum number of creatures on board for Love Song of Night and Day, so they don't end up clearing the board and we don't get any +1/+1 counters. Cool. Sleeper's okay here, but I think I can manufacture a better board for it in this matchup. We can get this Tortoise to trade off earlier. Sure. Oh, I keep that. I've got the green source here, even if I'm going to be a little stuck on mana with that. It's a great value play. Keldon's strike team. Alright, well. Our Banalish Sleeper just got significantly worse. It's very bad against a bunch of 1/1s. They just sack a 1/1. Trade that off into it. Splatter Goblin's pretty good here, though. And Take Up the Shield is fantastic, so... Let's go for the Take Up the Shield, and then... We're just playing Splatter Goblin. Ooh, let's go. Please resolve. Thank you. Ton of life gain. Up to 25, baby. I guess Splatter Goblin just got less good now. They only have 1/1/1, so never mind. But hey, Banalish Sleeper, sack Splatter Goblin, kill 2 of their cards. That could be a thing. Full Domain Slamfoot Survey. I think that just means they get 2 lands, right? Yeah. That doesn't do anything different for being full domain. They just get 2 lands. Cool. Love Song of Night and Day towards getting this goblin to 2 toughness, I believe. I still don't want to play the Sleeper, which might be wrong, but I think you can find a big kill in this matchup. No land in hand, no land. Oh, Tachova, why? Why are you so good? Counter. Counter. Repossession. Kicked. Picks up a Bone Rattle. Love Song, but I don't have the mana to recast the Love Song anyway. And if I Sleeper, I'm just killing a 1/1 here. Yeah, if I clear out some board here and see if Sleeper does anything post-combat. So each player would sack a creature at the same time. So if I play this and sack my Splatter Goblin to finish off their land, they can then just choose to sack that land anyway, I think. It actually doesn't work as good as I want it to. I don't think we get to send in the flyer then. Let's go. Sack your land then. Yeah, I don't kill Tachova, but I'm killing a 3/3 here. And now this is in my grave for the repossession. So next turn I can repossession the Sleeper and Bortuk back. And then just Sleeper away a land again. They have to chump with Tachova at that point. Yeah, this is wonderful. Beautiful Sleeper nonsense, and we are 3-2. At least another 50-50 run or better this time around. Here we are now for game number 6 on the draw. We are 3-2. Got a couple early losses with some mulligans, and now we have balanced things out for an average run at worst. but we're going to take this as far as we can. This is a very good opening hand. We have a 1-drop into a 2-drop into a 3-drop. We are on the draw, so it's not going to be an unbeatable amount of pressure for your average deck, but they could be on a slower hand where this could still get them pretty easily, or we could draw some more action. We'll see how it plays out. Mulligan from our opponent. They're also on a black deck with turn 1 Battlefly Swarm. Might have to tribute that just because the Death Touch means it trades. No matter what. Black-green, another Battlefly Swarm. Alright, well, Cult Conscript trades are good at least. And Menace is good against those. So we kind of just win the race with this Cult Conscript because they're not going to want to trade, and it's hitting for twice as much as the Swarms are, at least individually. And the Knight with Menace. Yeah, Conscript and Knight both actually play pretty well against these Battlefly Swarms. Our little Splatter Goblin would also be pretty awesome here. If we find him. Yeah, they're just racing with the little swarms. Poke us to 17 because they know they're not getting any good blocks with them. Goaltender's a solid draw. Since these swarms basically have Death Touch anyway, 1 toughness doesn't really matter, so we can just drop that out. Have a good graveyard effect once that trades off. I don't hate the idea of dropping the Vanguard either, though. But then they just hold off a swarm, hold up a mana with it. But maybe they really want to play a 4-drop following this up, and Vanguard kind of keeps them off it because of the 2 toughness. Yeah, I mean, we don't really get any value from filling our grave right now. It's not till we have the 5 mana to exile Soul Tender from grave that it does anything particularly interesting. Worst case scenario, if they hold the swarm back, I can just not attack with the Vanguard. Alright, they're holding the swarms back, so we send in the non-Vanguard creatures. Takes the 4 damage. They're down to 10. Here's a Soul Tender and a tap land for the turn then. So we can play the untapped land and buff everybody with Vanguard next turn for major damage. Ooh, no creatures milled for the Soul Tender. That could be awkward. But Sleeper's going to make sure we have something in our graveyard if I really need to. Alright, Pilfer hits whatever here. Probably Tribute. I guess they're kind of the same thing right now. Whatever I play only kills one Battlefly Swarm. I hit for a good chunk of damage here. I think it is worth taking our 1-for-1 trades into these swarms. Okay, that actually, if they don't have a combat trick, is really good for me because the Soul Tender doesn't die here. Yep, they didn't have enough black mana to Death Touch both of them up. They're down to 4 against all this. There's a Bulwark, pretty great in the Defender's deck, but not super helpful right now. Kicked Urborg Repossession. There it's... Oh, they can't gain life because the Knight? Gross, so they're just dead. It's a Banalish Sleeper. Disgusting. Alright, 4 and 2 it is. We've managed another positive record with this deck. And we are at least breaking even on them gems. Alright, here we are on the play for game number 7. Got all of our colors to kick the Urborg Repossession later if they like blow up our Citizen's Rest. I guess the Love Song of Night and Day is going to end up in the grave naturally. So just pick up a Sleeper and a Love Song. Almost definitely just playing the Sleeper turn 2 to get our 3-1 out to beat down with. And to have another creature on board to put counters on with the Love Song later. Ooh. Now I can play Reinforcements instead, which is disgusting with Banalish Sleeper. If we can hit an untapped land to kick it. Alright. Tons of one-drop options for what they want to sack, but still be good value. Bad draw is bad, and we have to just pass now. I mean, Fright for Return Reinforcements is fun. It does do some goofy stuff, at least. Deathbloom Gardener. Okay, I mean, they're down to 2 cards in hand. I honestly don't think just making them discard one is going to be that bad here. And then I'll have 4 mana up next turn to be able to play Reinforcements. And another 2-drop first. Still had an extra land in there chilling. Well, extra is debatable. They're on 3 lands total since they discarded that. Shadow Prophecy's a great draw, though. Puts them right back in this game. Draws the best 2 cards from the top 3 to make sure they still have some more action. Yep, full domain defender's garbage. If I see a Wingmantle Chaplain, I'm gonna have an aneurysm. And I'm also very much gonna lose the game because it's already 3 1/1 flyers just off the first cast. Reinforcements. Banalish Sleeper kicked, right? Feels like the play. With the Urborg Repossession in hand, we sack the actual card and not the tokens. They sack the Defender. I don't think they'd do that with Wingmantle Chaplain in hand. Would have expected just sack the Gardener there. Yeah, so it's just more mana ramp in their hand. After the Slimefoot survey, it'd probably be reasonable for them to sack the Gardener, but maybe they'll let us draw the card here. Let's see, do they sack a permanent or do we draw a card? We draw a card. Okay, Splatter Goblin and a Love Song. Seems these. Go team go. Another Deathbloom Gardener. Narada. Oh, I've got a backup Citizen's Arrest now, so I think we're arresting Rada. Ooh, Repossessed Frightful Return's kind of cheeky here. And I'm not arresting Rada this turn, so I take one big swing, but it's cheeky. I think that's pretty good. Got rid of a Leyline Binding. Not bad at all. Okay, we take one real big swing. And then just go to Sleeper Town here. Oh my god. I'll take 11. I'm still at 9. That's fine, right? Keep these creatures around. Ooh, Cult Conscript's the top deck. That's fantastic. Conscript, and I can Sleeper the Conscript away and have a 3/1 blocker up for Rada, which can't buff itself, right? Yeah, Rada can't buff itself. So Sleeper, even just killing the Bulwark is enough to hold Rada off because I just put a 3/1 in front of her. Beautiful. And I'm holding up Resolute Reinforcements too, just in case. I've got the chump blockers as well. Oof, the Bone Rattle off the top is fantastic. Get 2 creatures back on this board. So there's a 4/4, and then Probably just the bulwark again, I guess. Death Toucher it is. Sure. One mana Phalanx, that's a pretty good deal. Oof, take up the shield. That can really ruin some combat for our opponent. This is at least 4 power, so it can actually attack into the Bone Rattle here. Let's eat up that Bone Rattle, nom nom nom. They blow up any of our creatures, we can bring the Conscript back. We've got the mana up for it. Wow, they've got some bombs in there. I've got double Citizen's Rest, so we're going to be fine, but Mindsinger is great. I think we passed one of those today, too. Might be the one we passed. Whee! That's lethal. Well, I mean, that's a forced Rada chump block, put them to 1. Very close to lethal. That is game. That was just the Orzhov deck firing on all cylinders there. Our opponent got to dump a lot of creatures onto the board early, but there were a lot of cheap creatures that didn't stay that impactful that long, just 0/3 defenders and stuff. So we really did some crazy attrition stuff in the late game with a bunch of sacks and resacks, and the double Frightful Return was very good. That was cool stuff. 5-2 in the money now as we head into game number 8. All right, here we are for game number 8. I don't think we'd keep this hand with no black sources. Every single one of these cards wants the black, but I guess we could just drop this as a 3/1. Still feels like it's got to be a mulligan here. All right, better mana, 2-drop and a 3-drop curve. Citizen's Arrest with no double white might be the ditch, but it's also our only removal. So it could be one of the 3-drops. I'd rather curve out this way. It is painful to get rid of one of these cards, isn't it? Yeah. Here we go. Did hit that second white source, so we know the rest is going to be castable. Full domain from our opponent, starting with an electrostatic infantry. Interesting. Maybe not full domain, but they have 3 land types already. Infantry, incredible in a deck that's like blue-red at its core. If they want a combat trick to kill a splatter goblin, they got it. Sure. Probably have to Citizen's Arrest this infantry and hope they don't have Shore Up. It's already pretty threatening. Oh, there we go. Sleeper's pretty great here. Just guarantee that thing gets out of my life. Even if they have Shore Up to protect it. Vine Shaper Prodigy, very nice. 2-for-1 for our opponent when we're already behind. We're already down on cards from the mulligan. We're just going to further cement the card advantage lead. Just know I'm arresting a 2-2, so just get the Vanguard down. No blocks. Down to 14. There's Rada again. Domain 3. It's pretty big damage. That's bad enough to arrest her. essentially attacking for 6 each turn if they have another creature to buff with her. Down to 12. There's the Impulse. Find the best card in the top 4, put in their hand. Land for turn and a Flowstone Kavu, a menacing threat when I'm already down to 12. Really don't want to have to blow my removal this early, but I don't see much of another choice with the menace on that card. Here we go again. You're under arrest, Kavu. Amplifier, toss the Vanguard back in our hand. Love Song of Night and Day. Well, at least they played the Amplifier before we got a creature token on board from that card, because that would have been real bad for us. But I can still only play 1 card a turn. So blocks are going to be pretty bad here. I guess we just play the best trader that we have, which is the Soul Tender. Can trade it off and get some chicken tendies for dinner later. Pick up the Necromass. We get the tendies and the nuggies. Alright. So I guess they were just like drafting a blue-red spells deck and it wasn't quite open, so they ended up with some green splashes going on, but they're not really like domain. Like double amplifier, impulse, electrostatic infantry, that's a clear blue-red deck right there. But yeah, they're a hybrid. Unfortunately, we are playing off curve enough that we are gonna die here. Which means every loss today was every game we mulliganed. Rip-a-roo. I have to just replay the Soul Tender again. Micromancer's definitely the kill. They just pick up a Gaia's Might and hit me for like 10. Shore Up? I'm not sure if Shore Up is quite lethal. Oh, especially when they don't have the blue mana. Maybe not. This does seem like they have the combat trick here, though, which I guess it doesn't matter how I block if they have the combat trick. Because this is already 5 damage on board, so if it's +2/+2 or more, then it's dead. Alright. Yep. Matchup definitely felt winnable. The draws certainly were not. 5-3 it is. One last look at the deck. I think this had a pretty solid showing. Again, the only losses we had were our mulligan games. And outside of that, things actually played pretty dang well. We had some great Banalish sleeper lines against some slower Dominaria decks. And yeah, all of our losses just had some stumbling on curve. We got hit real hard by the tap lands. Not sure the beachfront was worth it. These green tap lands were still worth it, because Repossession and Bone Rattle were still some of our strongest plays in a few of those games, so the hindering us on mana there was still worth the power level of these cards, but the beachfront, like, we never kicked Tribute to Urborg. The blue source was really not necessary in this deck, so just another untapped land to have to play off curve a little less often would have been pretty nice. But yeah, overall, this is a pretty solid deck. It's not perfect. It's certainly lower on the token production than you want by quite a bit. We didn't get any of the great common token production, just the Resolute Reinforcements we didn't draft. The Captain's Call very highly. That would have been fine in this deck. The really good one that you want is the Cavalier, the 3-mana 2/2 that comes with a 1/1, and we just didn't see like a single copy of that card, so that was awkward for us. We also don't have any like super premium card really pulling us into this archetype specifically. I just kind of wanted to play it, kind of wanted to force it a little bit because I enjoy the archetype. So certainly probably could have had a better deck in a more open archetype here. But 5 and 3, forcing this deck a little bit without super huge reasons to be there. Like none of the premium 2-color cards for this deck, like an Elas Ilkor or something like that, I think is a very solid, very serviceable record today. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. And other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.